Take.
Oh man. So yeah, we got some power for y'all today. Like literally, that's all we're talking about right now, right? Whether it's black power, power to the people, or if we're talking about gathering 6 infinity stones to put in a gauntlet, everybody's talking about power. Power denotes strength, denotes energy, energy being a quanta of being able to do work, how much work can be done. But we all know power as electricity. Okay, being electric, you know, when we think of the body being electric, do we really understand what that means? Like, is it like a figure of speech that we all throw around, or are we actually electrical beings? We're photovoltaic beings. We're photoelectric beings. Yes, we're electric, but we're electric only because of our relationship with light. You see what I'm saying? Electricity is a language. It's a movement. It's a verb. It's an action. And if you are living an electric life, then you got to make sure the things that you take inside you are electrical, obviously. So I'm going to take y'all to I. Okay, like I told y'all before, I is the ancient name of Saint Croix. Okay, the most natural and energy driven, produce given part of the Virgin Islands. Okay, water islands, St. Thomas, St. John, but here we go with I, which means water. All right, at one time this island was saturated with water. It was rivers, ponds, lakes, things like that, and it's in need of bringing that water element back to that island. Now, the soil of that island is so fertile that it gives birth and gives rise to some of the most powerful herbs, most potent herbs on the planet. And what makes an herb potent? What makes it powerful? Well, for the mere fact that it grows in an equatorial region and lets you know it's getting UVA, UVB, UVC, it's getting high frequency light, okay, that is storing in its roots, that is storing in its fruit, that is storing in its leaves, that is storing all throughout the plant, and its flower. You smell it, you know, when you smell the fragrance of the oils either coming out of the leaves or the stem of the flower, okay. All these potent properties provide our being, our temple, with a means to interface with our days better, okay? Because when we simplify everything, it's just about a day. It's about the day, okay? We have a certain amount of time when the sun rises and when the sun sets to get work done, and it's progressive, right? You're getting towards something. So as much as we put thought and think about the goal or the destination, like the journey is what it's all about, and the journey is the day by day. And what governs the day by day is the sun. It's the cycle of the sun coming up and going down, and you have to be in tune with that. Okay, you have to be in tune with those frequencies. The sun is going to provide you with the information, light, the energy it needs, as long as your body is properly hydrated and you're breathing accordingly. You know, but because we live in the type of world that we do, and our DNA, our genetic structure has been on attack for a long time. Like it's definitely, it can be regenerated, but it takes time. It takes just the knowledge and the inside knowing that you need the help first. You see what I'm saying? So once you can recognize that you need that, a sense that you need that help, there are herbs that exist around us that provide us with boost, you know, so to speak, to get ourselves out of the trough or the ditch, you know, taking us higher up to another level. All right. So when we're talking about we're talking about St. Croix, you know, we went over a powerful lineup of herbs in our last video. This video is specifically for one particular herb, which we call love bush. Of course, the number one herb with the best secret and the one that we got to focus on the most would be called love bush. No, that's not its scientific name. Okay, that is definitely its common name, you know, indigenous name in the Caribbean. But you'll find other names elsewhere: life plant, miracle plant, mother of 1,000 daughters. Like, it got a lot of names. Clone plant as well. Now, On my island, they call it love bush. And the reason why they call it love bush is because there is a story or folklore connected with the leaf. And what is this folklore? What is this belief? Well, if you are in a relationship with somebody, or you fancy somebody, you feeling somebody, or they feeling you, right? And you want to know whether or not they love you back. You want to know whether, because you want to know that, right? You ain't just going to be, no peeping Tom and chasing, right? Stalking. What you would do is you would write down that note on this leaf or on a piece of paper, parchment paper, and fold it in the leaf and bury it in the soil, okay? If the leaf grows, that means they love you. And if it don't, then you need to find another. You need to move on, which I find interesting because this plant is easy to grow. So I can understand if it don't sprout, then yeah, there's some love missing there, but as long as the love is there, it's going to thrive. You know what I'm saying? So when I returned back home, this was one of the first plants that I was introduced to by my man Rasmani on St. Thomas. And intrigued in the properties of this plant, I started to jump in. All right. So of course that story about the whole love thing, burying it and it grow, that intrigued me. But what was taught to me was that the plant was amazing for the kidneys. Okay. It has these bufadienolides that are these glycosides, or rather plant-based steroids. I spoke about these plant-based steroids in a previous, but these are a different category of them that help with the heart and help to expedite certain processes in the body. Now when we're dealing with the kidneys, remember kidneys is like an acid-alkaline balance in the body, because remember it deals with salts, sodium chloride, it deals with potassium, it deals with calcium, and see, all of these electrolytes do what to the blood, do what to the plasma? They change the pH. Remember, pH is parts hydrogen. Okay, so the more concentrated hydrogen ions you have in, the more acidic, the more concentrated the hydroxyl ions are, the more alkaline and the more base it is. So you can understand how the kidney, based on them either excreting certain electrolyte minerals in ratio or relation to preserving them back in the body, will dictate whether your pH is 7.35 or 7.1 or 7.2, because you don't want it to drop under 7 because you'd be dead, and you don't want to get up to 9 and 10, 11 because bleaching ammonia is up there. So you have these properties that the kidney does. Well, it's amazing because this plant has these same properties. Okay, it governs acid-alkaline balance as well. And it does it in such a profound manner with its oxidation reduction reactions that it has the ability to reproduce itself. This is why it's called mother of 1,000 children. This is why it's called a clone plant, a clone leaf, or life plant, because it constantly gives life. So the first thing that happens, now these are some leaves that I actually left out and just let to dry. Okay, so these are some dried leaves. All right, these are some dried ones. Now what I did is I just left them, no water, no nothing, on a paper towel to absorb all moisture, just forgot about them. And even with those, do you see this, y'all? Can you see that? When you look at this leaf right here, you find all these little white strings sticking out like little cat whiskers or something. All right, those are roots. Those are roots. So if I sit this leaf in some water now, the next thing that's going to happen is going to start to germ, and the sprouts are going to shoot up, and then eventually you're going to have sprouts. Okay, like you do right here. These are leaves that I actually got out of Bermuda when I had an event earlier this year. Brought them back and was able to sprout. Now these leaves, when they mature, I'm able to repeat the process over and over again. So if you think about the kidney separating the waters and balancing the pH of the body, you know what I mean, the fluidity, you know, how everything moves, then being able to balance the pressure of the kidney becomes of utmost importance. Okay, we're talking about the glomerular filtration rate, the GFR, which needs to be about 100. When it drops to 60, that's when you got your GFR 60, and anything below that, you're talking about kidney failure. All right. And what is this whole GFR? What is this glomerular filtration rate? It's the rate at which, filtrate is formed, pass through the glomerulus, which is a portion of the kidney. The kidney is made up of millions of units called nephrons, and in the nephron is a glomerulus and a Bowman's capsule, and the blood that is being filtered, through this glomerulus into the Bowman's capsule. The rate at which this filtrate is formed and enters into the proximal tubule, that rate is called the glomerular filtration rate. And it has to follow a certain rate, because if it's too slow, that means the pressure ain't right. And if it's too fast, that means the pressure ain't right. You want it to be just right. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of people that are having kidney issues, the juice and the properties that exist inside here, are going to be those properties that will assist. And like I said, I don't kill anybody. I'm a consultant. These are studies, these are research findings, and I'm providing this information material to the people so they can find out. And not everybody is able to get access to love bush, not just love bush, but we're talking about love bush grown on the island of St. Croix. We're talking about that special breed. And I know I keep calling it love bush. A lot of y'all might want to know what the name is. So that's Bryophyllum pinnatum, Pinnatum, Bryophyllum pinnatum. All right. Kalanchoe, also Patercucci or Patercucci leaf. That's what they called it over there in India. So you have all these different terminologies for it, but its universal name, scientific name, is Bryophyllum. All right. So it's meristem, and it's stem cell, because it has stem cell properties. And when you look in between the nodes, because you see how the shape of this leaf, it has these little nodes with real high concentration of dark pigment, like anything that deals with light, anything photovoltaic, gonna have to deal with melanin. This is where you find the organization to cross over where this light energy and this water energy and the particular properties in this leaf are able to give rise to germination by way of a root and a sprout. Okay. And what is it growing? It's not growing another leaf. So that's like if I cut my arm off, it's not growing another arm. Okay. It's growing another body out my arm. Okay. In addition to healing my arm, you know what I'm saying? So it's a very, very powerful plant, and its regenerative properties you can utilize for yourself. Now, if you notice the front of these leaves, versus the back of the leaf, they're very different. Okay, the front and the back of these leaves are very different. Let me see if I can find me another one over here. Okay, so this one is very green, and then on the back there it has almost a different texture. And what happens is, if you warm this leaf up, especially if you put a layer of some type of oil like coconut oil or perilla oil, marula oil, over a cut, a burn, a scrape, a wound, okay, and you warm the leaf and you put the leaf over it, what will happen is the properties of this leaf will then infuse, similar to how a poultice would work, into the wound and expedite, speed up the processes that occur of clotting and the healing matrix that takes place in order to get rid of this wound, this cut, this laceration, whatever it is. All right. Also, besides wound healing, and besides the kidney, overall, we're talking about antimicrobial, antibacterial, those properties as well. Also getting viral properties and things like that out of the system. So the love bush, the Bryophyllum, is a life plant, as they call it, a miracle plant, as they call it. They're not just naming it that. They're calling it that because, that's what it does. Okay, so if we had a plant like this in our society a little bit more consistent, more often, or more attainable, it's always good to have something that we could reach to, you see. But guess what? The fact that it exists is enough, right? But what I keep trying to reiterate over and over is, if you drop a leaf, you simply just drop it anywhere, another plant's going to grow. So it's like we can't run out of it. So if it had another property where we would need the contents of this leaf for something, you know, more widespread, it would make so much more sense. Like, okay, you know, why this is an important thing that it clones. Okay, yeah, I could do my research and find out, okay, how can I use this for generation? How can I use this for healing? How can I use this to help, you know, with other properties and stuff like that? But most importantly, like the fact that it just infinitely produces itself, like that's almost like free energy. How we think of free energy. We wish we had some sort of source of energy that constantly goes, constantly, that we could get from, that doesn't hurt the environment, that we can't run out of. So it would be interesting if a plant like this, that's just like everlasting and ever growing, also had properties like we started this whole conversation with, and that's power. Okay. Now, another property of this leaf is something called carvacrol. Okay, carvacrol is the oil that's inside of here. It's the essence of this plant. Carvacrol is also like an antimicrobial, antiviral, antibacterial. But the most interesting thing about carvacrol is, so it has these like thermogenic properties. You know what I mean? What do I mean by thermogenic properties? But when you put carvacrol on the tongue, rather than it just getting a sensation of flavor, so to speak, you actually get a sensation of warmth. Heat. So it brings heat. You see what I'm saying? I'm not talking like a pepper, you know, where it's spicy, you know, and uncomfortable. No, we talking warm, like when you pass underneath a radiator, you know, when the sun comes from out behind the cloud. It's a different type of warmth. You see what I'm saying? So you feel that warmth. So that lets you know how it's able to help with like inflammatory situations. COX-2 inhibitor as well, which is cyclooxygenase. Okay, cyclooxygenase. When I did a quick clip on Instagram on Congo root, and I was talking about all its properties, one of its properties is a cyclooxygenase 1 inhibitor, which is a new class of like arthritis medications, but they got that from that plant. Well, this one is a COX-2 inhibitor dealing with inflammatory responses, but you can understand how it can assist with getting rid of inflammation and wound healing if it can manipulate temperature. If it can manipulate temperature. You see what I'm saying? Because if you notice, when you get a fever flu, it's the first thing that happens. You get hot. Your body gets hot to flush things out, to get that blood boiling. What if you can concentrate the heat in just certain areas without throwing the whole body in inflammation? You see what I'm saying? Into that type of response. So there's so much more. Like literally, I can spend an hour probably going over 100 different benefits of this plant. Do you understand what I'm saying? You know what I mean? I could go on and on and on, but I think y'all pretty much got the gist of what I'm saying so far. So let's push forward into the next part. So like I was saying before, by this plant being able to be cloned, by this plant being able to be multiplied on its own, we talking no seed, talking about you don't gotta bury nothing. It's like a woman. Remember, women are bacteria, men are viruses. Viruses need bacteria in order for them to reproduce. You know, like men need women in order to reproduce, to keep their genes going. So these are, of course, this is a female plant. You know what I'm saying? So this plant constantly is ready. Like, only thing you have to do is drop this plant on what we would call the cathode. The cathode of the earth, you know, just drop this plant on it and then it'll start having these magnificent properties where it just creates life. That is a female energy. That's a female energy. So if we can constantly, just infinitely, just eternally produce this plant and yield a chlorophyllian elixir unlike any other, okay, yeah, so we all getting all these juices and stuff and feeling better. What else? Okay. Well, the reason why it's able to constantly reproduce is because it consists of the citric acid cycle properties, the same properties that represent your respiratory system. Not this respiratory system, but your cellular respiratory system. Okay, your cellular respiratory system going through oxaloacetate, ketoglutarate, you know, fumarate, malate, all those different shifts that those molecules become through enzymes is this cycle that occurs so that you can extrapolate carbon dioxide, water, but more specifically hydrogen atoms and electrons. Electrons by way of NAD, which is an electron carrier, okay, that takes it over to the electron transport chain. So through glucose, you can make 36 ATPs, but through fats, through lipids, you can make 147 through beta oxidation. All right, so when you go through the citric acid cycle, this is how you produce the particular elements that go into the electron transport chain. Well, this leaf consists of your cellular respiration citric acid cycle blend. We're talking about isocitrate, citrate, malate. All of those properties are inside this leaf. So it's able to kind of go through cellular respiration, and anytime cellular respiration is kicking properly, then what can happen? Life can come forth, life can exist. All right, so we're talking about the citric acid cycle. What's so important about the citric acid cycle? Well, when we go into the electron transport chain, we're going into a process where electrons are being channeled through the mitochondrial membrane in order to create a hydrogen pump out of all of the enzyme complexes that the electron is getting channeled through. These hydrogen pumps embedded inside of these protein complexes embedded in the mitochondrial cristae, the folds, pump the hydrogen into the intermembrane space between the outer membrane and the inner membrane. This creates a surge of hydrogen protons, an abundance of hydrogen protons. They are impermeable to the membrane of the cristae, so they can't enter back inside the matrix where they came from, where now the electron density of that region of the matrix exponentially increases because all the hydrogen is getting pumped into the intermembrane space, and this electrochemical gradient of hydrogen ions along with the electrons inside the matrix give rise to the pumping of the fifth enzyme in the electron transport chain called the ATP synthase, which is a turbine, a rotor, a motor, an engine. It's just this next level thing that moves 1,500 cycles a second. 1,500 cycles per second. It spins, and it spins with the channel specifically designed for hydrogen ions, which this leaf is composed of. And them hydrogen ions constantly get pumped down the channel of the ATP synthase into the matrix, causing it to spin. And in these 1,500 cycle per second spins, okay, as it's spinning, it starts producing ATP. Okay, ATP, adenosine triphosphate. All right, so this is a process that constantly is happening every femtopicosecond that passes by on the nano realm of your system to allow you to have the energy and the power that you need. Okay, so to get back, when I said, wow, it'd be dope if all of the yield of these leaves really made an impact other than just us, because it's like, remember, it is a peripheral and it's a pi point in the center. So okay, it helps me. Okay, how does it help us all? How does it help everyone? Well, because of the isocitrate, citrate, hydrogen ions that exist in this plant plays as a perfect potent electrolyte elixir that when electrodes are added, you can yield current, charge, voltage, or electricity. Okay, electricity. Eternal leaf, a leaf that produces electricity that you can store and give to yourself, to your family, to your community, to the world. And it's so simple. It's so simple. All right, so I'm going to do a demonstration here to show you that this leaf has charge. Now, a lot of people are going to say, like they've been saying, oh, there's lots of vegetables, fruits that can produce charge, blah, 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 blah. Lemons and tomatoes and potatoes and all this other stuff. Listen, let me tell you something. Yes, there are other fruits, vegetables that have been known to create charge. However, what is the voltage? what is the amperage, and what is the lifetime of the elixir, okay, of the juice, of whatever the electrolyte mix is, so to speak. So how long does lemon juice last? How long can I use this lemon juice? Will it power a home? It might create some type of electricity. Y'all seen the little lemon joints that, you know, light the light up? I've seen them. Yes, okay. I'm not knocking that. Tomatoes also, you'll actually find tomatoes are real powerful because the lycopene, the beta carotene, all these pigments that are in tomatoes, it's a light, like it's a super fruit. You know what I'm saying? However, nothing is more as efficient as this leaf. Plus, remember, y'all, seed. Have to put it in, water it, weather, grow, nurse, wait till this hanging big fruit cut. This has to be a bush or a tree. Like, no, it's a leaf that grows instantly. So that means we could be making electricity, like the turnover rate is much quicker. Like, I love people that listen to this stuff and it stimulates your mind and you want to respond and comment, but please think, like, how long does it take to grow a lemon tree? How many lemons are you going to need? And how much work do you have to do? Can you drop the whole lemon down there? Is it just the juice of the lemon? Like, yo, it's work. It's work, okay? Here, it's nature, okay? It's so simple, all right? All right, so what do you do? How does this process work? How are we going to find out? I'm going to prove that this thing produces electricity because I have what you call a voltmeter or a digital multimeter, okay? It shows amperage, voltage, so forth, so on. I got my 2 leads, okay? I'm going to turn it on, all right? And I'm going to test this to show y'all that it's producing some charge, all right? Now, what I have here are love bush leaves, okay? Now, just so y'all know, fresh love bush, the other thing about love bush is, even though it works very well in terms of reproducing itself, in terms of, pardon me, getting it out there, like, you know, you have to really know how to take care of the leaf, so you know you don't lose your yield. So it's not really nothing that's provided everywhere. No one's really talking about it. I'm providing it, okay? So it's more of like an investment, in my opinion. Like, you could take this leaf and you could do your juice or, you know, whatever you want. But I suggest everybody sprout their leaves. Sprout your leaf, become part of this coalition, this community. Because I got a huge community out in Detroit. Like, yo, you need to see these people plants, bro. Like, they done figured out how to manipulate UV light, infrared light, aluminum, and certain times of the day and where to put it, and you just got these joints that are just thriving. Matter of fact, some people have already picked off their plant and started their next generation. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, my seasonal harvest, as I'm doing with the Congo root right now, as well as the love bush, they're going to come, they're going to go, and then I have different herbs. Right now, you know, I'm dealing with the love bush. So we got either the single large leaf or we have a multi-pack of small leaves, okay, that you'll find. You know what I mean? These will get shipped to you and you'll get the instruction on how to sprout. But I can tell you right now, it's something as simple as taking the leaf, putting it in a pool, or better yet, a puddle, a shallow puddle of water in a saucer. You know, a saucer that, you know, you put little teacups on, or, you know, little plates that you never really use, but they in the cabinet. Like, just pour that with water, take one leaf, drop it on top, put it in the window. Okay, and what you're going to end up finding is like that leaf that I showed y'all earlier that was sprouting, you know, that has all of these little root hairs on it. Okay, this is where the magic happens. This is where the elements of the soil get charged and enter into the plant. So when you eat it, you can assimilate. You know, you're gonna start seeing these roots, and then a few days later, you'll see a sprout. And then, you know, you gotta start talking to it. Remember, it's called love bush. It's sensitive. Remember, your emotion is in your kidneys, so you gotta give it some love. And the more love and the more you talk to it, the more it's gonna thrive. Okay. I got to give my plants more love. They should be stronger right now. But, you know, I'll be running all over the place. They be missing me. I come back, I talk to them, they straighten up, they get better. All right. So I'm gonna take some leaves and I'm gonna do some real simple. Put it in a blender with some distilled water. Okay. The ratio of this electrolyte mix that I am making is 50% distilled water. Okay. 40% of the leaf juice, okay, and 10% of an added element. I add another element to it to kind of make it a little bit more efficient, and that is copper sulfate. Copper sulfate. You can find copper sulfate in an aquarium, in a pet store. Okay, and remember, this ain't nothing you drinking. I'm not telling y'all to drink this stuff. I'm not telling y'all to drink this, not the electrolyte blend. This is for electricity in the home. Okay, the juice, the tonic that I got that I'm going to talk about in a minute, that's going to be for y'all. Okay, but this mix right here, you're not drinking. Okay, now so I'm gonna blend these leaves. I'm gonna chase it with a little bit of water, obviously, to get the blades going. You know what I mean? But when I'm done, I'm gonna have green fluid. All right, green fluid. Now, the green fluid, like I said, I'm gonna pour into a cup. So if I do my ratios right, then I know if I have a 16-ounce cup and I'm doing 50% distilled water, you know what I'm saying? Then if it's a 16-ounce cup that I'm dealing with, then half that cup is 8 ounces. So 8 ounces of that is going to be distilled water. Okay, and then 40% is going to be the juice. Okay, and then the remaining 10 is the copper sulfate, and I mix that up. Okay, and I put that in a cup. This is just 8 ounces. Now, another thing that you need to know. This is the other thing that makes it differ from tomatoes and lemons. Okay. The fact that this elixir will last 6 months. 6 months. That's right. Put it back in the fridge. Keep stirring it up. But it's 6 months. And you keep pulling this out and keep doing this experiment over and over in 6 months. And also, if it's set up where you got a module and a generator, your juice, your electrolyte mix for your battery is going to be 6 months. You see what I'm saying? So, as I mentioned before, 1 kilogram equals on average 15 kilowatt hours. At most has been recorded 20 kilowatt hours. Then you can get an idea. Okay, if a kilogram represents that, and I could keep reusing it, reusing it for 6 months, then the numbers drop even more. Really at the end of the day, after I get through with all of this and tell y'all what's going on. If we move forward with Love Bush being a form of our power and our electricity, like our power bill will be like $1.47. Like to the power company though. To you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. Like the $1.47 to be like, they be giving that to you. So let's move on. Okay, so we talked about the blend and the ratio, okay? This juice right here is about 3 days old. I didn't even put it in the fridge. It's been sitting out, so we about to see. All right? Now, I made an electrode, okay? And the reason why we're making an electrode is because we're dealing with oxidation and reduction, okay? Oxidation and reduction is the main reaction that occurs in the body, coupled along with our photoelectric effect of being able to utilize our skin and our eyes and our hair as a means to transmit, filter, and process photonic and electromagnetic radiation that comes from the cosmos and the sun. We have the ability to do that. Now, oxidative reduction is the main product that process that occurs in our body, and this is the give and take of electrons between atoms. Okay, oxidation is the process in which an atom is losing an electron, while reduction is a process in which a atom is gaining an electron. And a mnemonic that you can use to remember that I use called oil rig. Okay, because OIL and RIG, oil is loss, reduction is gain. So oxidation is a loss, reduction is a gain. Now you think reduction is a loss, but it's not, because think about cooking. When you do a reduction, yeah, you're getting rid of a lot of water, but what are you doing? You're making the sauce, making that sauce more saucy. It's getting more concentrated. It's really a plus. It's becoming stronger. So in this case, reduction actually means the gaining of a thing, while oxidation means the loss of a thing. All right. So when we're dealing with a battery or a cell, because remember we're talking about cells with our body, a cell also means like a unit that is able to process energy, like cell phones, your cell, which is a unit of life. You know, we think about jail cells. Why do they call it cells? Because they usurp energy, you know, out of those men, you know, out of those women, out of those people that are incarcerated. You know, prison and the jail system is there to usurp energy, to put that energy into other networks. Our whole existence in society is based on electricity and electromagnetism. Okay. So when we're dealing with oxidation and reduction, loss and gain, which one is a loss and which one is a gain? Well, in this case, zinc is the one that will be oxidized, and this will be the anode in this particular experiment. And the copper, now if we're dealing with a galvanic cell, it will be switched. Okay, it's usually cathode and anodes are switched, but in this case, where we're dealing with more of an electrolytic cell, but this cell that we're doing this love bush generator. So the zinc is going to get oxidized, and it represents the anode. Why is it the anode? Because it's actually losing electrons. Okay, losing electrons, while the copper is going to be gaining electrons. So if we were to actually use a real fine ruler or measurement device after this electrochemical reaction occurs for some time, you will notice that the zinc will be very thin and the copper will be thicker, because the copper will be plated by the additional copper from the copper sulfate and the process of this oxidation reduction reaction, while the oxidation of the zinc will cause it to be thinner. Okay, and as it oxidizes, the zinc is going to go black. All right, it's going to go black. All right, and you can use lemon juice, okay, in order to clean it. You can also use copper too, and the citric acid that comes out of this lemon juice is able to bring the copper and the zinc back to life, so you could redo this experiment again and again. All right, so once again, oxidation reduction, oxidation reduction, oxidation reduction, ox reduction reaction, redox reaction. All right, so now, just like it's so deep, when you go inside the mitochondria, you got heteroplasmy, which represents the diseases and the pathologies that spill out of the mitochondria as a result of the increase of space between the enzymes that are inside the electron transport chain. So NADH dehydrogenase succinate, which is complex 2, cytochrome C, cytochrome B1 plus B6, cytochrome oxidase, ATP synthase. Okay, you got all of these particular protein enzymes, and they all perform this oxidation reduction reaction. Now, the heteroplasmy is a means in which if these complexes that I just named spread too far apart, okay, then what happens is the conduction potential of the electron that's being shot through each one of those complexes, as well as the pumping efficiency of the hydrogen into the intermembrane space, becomes disturbed. Okay, it breaks down. It just becomes very inefficient. Okay, and anything that breeds inefficiency, you start going into chaos, you start going to entropy, you know, things start to collapse and to break down from that point. You see what I'm saying? So the whole key in everything that I just said was that you want to keep your complexes of your electron transport chain in relative distance. You want their angstroms to be very narrow, very close together. Okay, and the same principles that occur in your mitochondria that makes it more efficient, makes conduction and currency more efficient on this level as well in regards to these electrodes. Because if I put these electrodes this far apart, then I'll have a certain voltage, you know what I'm saying? But if I put them closer together and repetitively, then I'm going to get a more efficient movement of electrons and protons with this oxidation reaction, which is going to give me a better voltage. Okay, so it's all about distance. So because of that, I figure that 0.5 centimeter to 1 centimeter would be a great distance between the zinc and the copper. And what I did is I did something real simple. I just took some cardboard from post office. I cut you know, one of the little flaps off, and I folded it until the folded portion was equivalent to 1 centimeter. I think it's just under. It's about 0.75 centimeters right here. All right, and then what I did is I just took some tape and I just taped around it. All right, then after I taped around it, I took my zinc and my copper electrode. Like I said, of course I could have made this look way more clean and dope and everything like that, but I wanted to make it look like, yo, home style, home fries, you know what I'm saying? like home recipe. So I put the electrodes on both sides enough so the top can stick up, and then I taped around there so that I can then yield this. Okay, right there. Okay, that's a simple little electrode. It's a little bent right now, but I could definitely, you know, manipulate this to make them closer together, as close as they could be. Okay, now after that, then I take some copper wire. All right, copper wire, or wires, so to speak. You go to Home Depot. The lower the number, the thicker the gauge, the thicker the diameter of the wire. So, you know, if I had a 10, like a 10 would be like real thick. I think I might have a 14 here. All right, so you see how thick this is, and I think this might be like a 14. You know what I mean? This, I believe, is like a 20 something, 22 maybe, but it's thin enough so you could bend it, manipulate it, and cut it with a scissor if you have to. All right, now once I pull off a decent length, what I did next is I wrapped it around the zinc. Then I pulled it to the copper and wrapped it around there. Now, you can get like a metallic hole punch and punch holes and snake it through and tie. There's so many ways you can go. You can even, you know, obviously get some leads, you know what I'm saying, and link them up, you know. But you want the wire distance to be narrow as well. So that's why I dealt with this one that's real small, and I did a real short distance, you know. And, you know, I pressed the wire in close, because the whole idea is everything that's going on in the metal, you want it to continue through that copper metal. It's not going to happen if it ain't touching. So, you know, I got it on there touching. All right. So next, this is a blend, like I said, I made a few days ago, you know, and it's still green and it's still strong. So only thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna drop this in there. Okay, boom. It's in the juice. So simple. Now this is a digital voltometer. Okay, turn it on. There it is. All right, I'm gonna put the standee up so y'all can see. Put that right there. Now I got my two leads right here. I'm about to put my red lead on the copper, and I'm gonna put the black lead on the zinc. Okay, or rather, I'm putting the red on this cathode, and I'm putting the black on the anode. Okay. All right, moment of truth, y'all. Moment of truth. 0.79. Oh, that thing went up quick. That means it's juiced up. It went up to 1.3. Come on, y'all. I need 1.4. Come on. 1.3. And it's funny, when I checked earlier, it went up to 1.5, but let's see what we got. Yeah, 1.3, and it's hovering in between there, but as you can see, something's happening. All right, I don't got like no little like fairy in the back of here pressing buttons and nothing like that. It's juiced up, y'all. All right, so this is just 8 ounces. Okay, now previously when I did this some time ago, I actually had my cup like all the way filled up, you know, and I actually got 6 volts out of one of these cups, you know, but right now I'm getting 1.5, and I think it's because of the amount and a couple other factors as well, but you could definitely make it more efficient. Now, anybody who understands electricity, an electrician or a mechanic that deals with batteries, you've heard of series and you've heard of parallels. Okay, and these are processes that you can do where you can link multi-cells together and crisscross wires so that you can not just increase voltage but double amperage. Okay, because the amperage that I would get off of these was like about a quarter of an amp. I think the highest I got when I did through a series was just under 1 amp, I believe it was. We want to get that amperage to increase, you know, and you do that by making a series or parallel. So when I talked about the heteroplasmy, like I said, that a lot of diseases come about because of the stretching of the distance in between the relative electron protein complexes, enzymes, so to speak, in the mitochondria. The same thing happens with these electrodes. So the same way that I have these electrodes just under a centimeter apart, what would happen is I would continue this series. See, you know, I would continue this series and keep them all at the same relative distance between one another. Okay, I would just keep going, all right, until I have, you know, like a whole like electrode, you know, like super unit, okay, so to speak, an array. All right, so then what I would do is get like an ammo box. You get a battery box. These are ammo boxes. You know, everybody loading up these days, right? You got a bunch of these. So I get me an ammo box, and I could cut these up into like 6 compartments and start dropping those in there, and then pour the juice in. Pour the juice. And then just like I got 1.5 volts there, right? And let's say I got 3 volts or maybe 6 volts out of this guy. But then after I put them all together in here, you know, I might be up to like 24 volts, 30 volts, like who knows, you know, it's going to keep increasing. Then when I put each cell together and I have a module, okay, now you're getting even more energy, okay? And then when you got 2 or 3 modules, come on, man, like you definitely can power your home. Like our homes don't use as much electricity as we might imagine it to. You know, it's not a lot. Like we can actually benefit ourselves. You know, there's really no problem in doing it. So what you just saw was an example. I mean, I talked about this a year ago when I found it. I looked like a crazy man. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people thought I was insane. You know, I did a couple demonstrations throughout the year, but nothing too major. And a lot of people have been asking questions. So, you know, this is hardly anything compared to what I've compiled so far in regards to this plant medicinally and electronically. This is just, you know, because I'm told I go real deep, like, you know, I could get real complex. So I figured that this was a very simple, like humble, okay, way to express this information to the people and get them on board to understand the importance of this, you know. And I'm going to keep studying it because I know that, you know, if anything is to happen and I still want some electricity, I don't want to just know the principles of electricity. I want to know how I can generate it too. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, get up on your zinc and copper electrodes, get that bad boy up. But the juice that provides, you know, everything, you know, it's here. It's going to keep growing. So once again, like I said, I got the leaves on the site. You know, you can either get the 1 large leaf or you can get the small leaf multi-pack that could get sent to you. I also have the extract, you know, of the leaves that I'm selling in the dropper bottles. The tonics is going to be suspended in a medium that's going to make it, you know, highly assimilating into the system. And you're going to find all that on the site. You know, that won't be absolutely no problem. Everything will be posted up there. So once again, we have the eternal leaf, aka Bryophyllum, love bush. I'm giving y'all a futuristic vision of the love bush generator. Okay, you take the juice, you take some water and a little copper sulfate, you make a little mix and you drop this electrode inside, and when you do, you find that there is an oxidation reduction reaction that is occurring between these particular electrodes, between the zinc and the copper, that allows for charge. And what's so important about the charge that it creates a charge in a form that we can store. Okay, we can take all this charge that we get out of the juice and we can store it in something and have that electricity. There's even solar panel love bush hybrid experiments occurring. There's a lot of things going on right now. So if anybody's interested in the love bush, please come to my site, KTTheArchDegree.com. You'll find it there. Any other additional information on the plant, just stay tuned. I'm going to have more videos coming, more info. Plus, I'm going to put, I'm going to have some site information up on my site for the site, so that y'all can see some of these studies and some of these papers. We can create this kind of co-op. Everybody who ends up getting one of these leaves and sprouting them, you're part of it. You know what I mean? And, you know, I want you to send your pictures in as they're sprouting and as they're going through all their stages, you know, because this is something definitive. This is another moment for us if we take it seriously. All right. So any more information, remember I'm KT the Arch Degree on Instagram. You can find me as Kamani Tate on Facebook. I'm Kamani Tate obviously here on YouTube. But please go to KTTheArchDegree.com. See my Earth Day sale. Remember, all of this is in lieu of Earth Day. Like remember, Earth got a cathode anode relationship with the sun. Peep that, okay? That's why screwing in and walking around barefoot on the Earth constantly replenishes you with electrons, okay? Because you are part of the circuit, all right? There's a whole electrical phenomenon going on that you are part of but may not be privy to. So I want to thank all of y'all. See y'all next time.